So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rich Clark. I've been a hypnotherapist for the last 8 years and I've been a holistic therapist for the last 14 years. So this week I'm going to talk about a theme of relationships. And a couple of weeks ago I spoke about arranged marriages. So I'm going to speak about 3 topics today. And the first topic is dating. So with dating, when we have hypnotherapy clients, we get this quite a lot. A lot of people are concerned that they're dating people and it's not great, or they date people and they seem to end up with the same problems, or they're dating people and it doesn't seem to go any further than a few weeks, sometimes obviously one night stands and the rest of it. So if we just look at what the idea of dating is a stage of romantic relationships in which 2 individuals regularly engage in activity together, most often with an intervention of evaluating each other's suitability as a partner in a future intimate relationship. If it falls into the category of courtship, consisting of social events carried out with a couple, either alone or with others. And the main thing is with the biggest issue is the first date. So a first date is important sometimes for making a good impression or because dating may lead to a more serious relationship or a breakup or friend zoning. If the relationship progresses, the next steps may include meeting the parents or other family and eventually cohabitation, engagement and marriage. Even after the relationship develops, couples still organise a date or date night. And with the internet, many dating sites have been created to modernise the personas section of newspapers as a way to find prospective partners. Speed dating, blind dating and the use of matchmaking are all ways of possible. Right, so we're just going to break some of these down. So the first date. One of the things most people get wrong about a first date is they believe they should go all out. And the actual idea of first dates is, this is a bit of advice I would give to most, and I've given this to most clients, it actually works really well, is first date is one, if you're talking to someone online or you meet someone and then you want to know what they are, good idea is to probably chat a little bit beforehand before you go on a fully date of what they like and what they don't. And then obviously working out a place where most people can, if it's a restaurant, they're not too far from going to a tube station if you're in London, or a place where they can get to easily. Also food wise, trying to be too adventurous on a first date isn't probably the best idea because it depends on the client, depends on the person they are. And then also with that, you also got to think of a few things. So I would say this, mostly for a man, the first date is they would pay for the full meal for the first date. They don't go halves. I think that's sometimes a bit, again, it depends how bad the date is. Sometimes some people, they believe that they should pay half and half. It depends on the how you structure it. But with dating, I think that the main idea is go to somewhere where the food is light, it's decent, it's easy to have a conversation. Try and, if you can, go to drink minimally in the first part of a date, I think, because if you drink too much, sometimes you can be a bit too open, a bit too honest. That sometimes doesn't work. Sometimes you remember you've got to try and get to know each other. And then I would suggest this, is that if you go to somewhere, you eat light enough but the food is heavy enough, and then afterwards if you do drink or you go somewhere, is go somewhere a bit more intimate afterwards. So that could be walking along a river, walking along an area to see things at night, if it's on the daytime, depends what that is. Also it could be that you could go to a bar afterwards, which will obviously be cheaper than buying drinks at a restaurant. Also try and make it fun. The one thing is, when you're trying in the first, it's all first impressions. So, sometimes people go like, oh, don't go to this cheap restaurant, or don't go to this burger place, or anything like that. Again, when you're younger, teenagers, they go first dates, they sometimes go to McDonald's and that. Obviously, when you're a bit older, try and go for something, one, which is affordable to who you are, because if you go too high and go to the big best restaurant, that high expectation is there. Try and keep it moderate. And then I think within that, we can do that. And I think that to me is probably the best idea. And also try and look at food, which is obviously, like I said, I think food is very important for a first date. Dinner, I think is very important. I think it's a really nice way of date. If you go to somewhere like a cinema or a theatre or something like that for a first date, you can't talk because it's a quiet environment. So it doesn't make sense. To me, when you're trying to get to know someone, you need to be able to talk and you need to be able to socialise. Now, some things with dating now, this is the next thing I'm going to talk about, is when we're talking about the idea of whether that works out or not, then also the idea that if relationships progress, then it's about meeting parents, meeting family. Now, obviously, you will learn things in the first dates whether it works. So, for example, if you know that you're working with someone and they say certain things which you don't like, comments or so forth, don't carry it on. If you start finding things in the dating things which are red flags, don't carry on. Be honest and be always knowing what you want and also knowing what you don't want. I think it's very important with this. Now with dating sites, which I think is the big minefield of all of the 21st century. Dating sites, to be honest, is like people on their CV. They try and make themselves look the best they can. Is it accurate or honest? I would say I doubt it. From experience of using dating sites, I wouldn't use them anymore. And I feel that if you want to go dating, it's actually better to meet people in social environments, meeting people in different environments. I mean, I've met people I've gone on to date with afterwards. I've met them at an art gallery, met them at a bookshop. I find meeting people in them sort of ways is a lot better. I don't know why that happens. That's happened to me, but it has worked for me. I think the whole dating thing online is a very much, you're getting someone who is only trying to sell the best side of themselves, and I think then when you go for the date, it can be a bit disappointing. I think when you actually meet someone, spontaneity works. I think also then when you most people would say it's meeting through friends, because then if your friends are a good judge of character, who you believe are a good judge of character, then you'd hope that person is a good person as well. One of the things I will say is never date work colleagues. I think work colleagues is a dangerous way of working, because if you, for example, if you date someone and it doesn't work out, then you have to work together. Can cause a lot of problems in friction in work colleagues relationships. Also, if you are dating longer term, if say for example your partner gets accused of work or something and then you defend them, then that can also put you at risk. I think the reason why some people who work together do date is because most people spend their time at work. But I would honestly say try and find someone who is, you both have separate lives. You have both separate lives, but when you come together, it's like you enjoy being together. And that also means that having time apart and having things you do on your own as well. Sometimes when you do everything too much together, that causes issues as well. So with dating, I think there's a lot of things as well. Like I said, matchmakers with friends, families with matchmakers as well. And I think the one thing is with all of this is to actually then get into the idea of how that works. And then with that, the controversy of dating as well is, where does dating go wrong? And I think with dating is all about safety. So I would always say this: if you go on a date and you can go to somewhere, I would say the first date, you should always go somewhere. If you're a female, this is my opinion, I think you should be somewhere quite close to home. And that way, if anything does happen, or you know your area around you, it sounds really scary to say this, but there are some people out there who are just not right in the head. And this is something I've actually worked with people in hypnotherapy who have had some horrible dates, had some partners, and the coerciveness and the behaviour issues and the codependency. Some people believe their soul flames are there and they turn out to be these absolute mad mental cases of people. People end up in many bad situations. So I think as a female, I think males should be as well, but I think for females you should also be very wary of who you're dating. And if there's something new, try and know where the local police station is, where you can get help. There's this thing about now, if you have an issue in a bar, you always ask for Angela. That's a new thing in the UK. And I think you've got to be very wary of your environment and what people are like. And I think what you do is you always should be observing and working that out, how that works. So as a hypnotherapist, what my thing do I believe dating is a great thing? I think it is. I think especially after COVID and the lockdowns and the way that all worked, I think we should socialise more. I think we should find people. I think we should have, even if we date and some people end up friends, that's good. There's obviously the friend zone as well, so sometimes you have to work out someone wants more than what you do. Again, work that out over time. But I think the way the world can progress is the more people we get to know and we spread our friendship groups, we will then find that we can find other people who interest us, and then sometimes we grow out of friends. So dating, I think, is very important. And I would say, going on to the next one, which I'm going to talk about marriage and divorce, the positive of marriage and how that can work, and the negative of divorce. And I think dating, a lot of things is when you're dating, you should be observing things about whether that person is their match for you. And I do believe this is something I think most people get wrong. They sometimes feel that when they're in dating mode and they end up getting serious and more serious, they then feel they can't get out of it. And I don't think that's the truth. I think you've always got an option. And the option is this: if you're not changing the situation, you're choosing the situation. And so to me, dating, I think, is very valid, that we have to understand that not everybody we date is the right person. And also not to always be dismissive just because someone has said something in nervousness either. But again, if someone is in a relationship where you're going out and dating, they keep mentioning their ex-relationship, that shows they're not moving on. So then maybe dating them isn't the right thing. And also with yourself, if you keep mentioning to friends and stuff about your exes and stuff, that also shows you're not ready to date either. And in that respect, that's where you need to go to therapy to get over past relationships, past marriages, past divorces, past issues with your family before you date. And I think more people need to actually work on themselves before they're dating. But if you have worked on yourself and you have done the work, then I believe dating is a good option. And I think it's a great thing for people to do, and to find people who have similar interests and some things which actually also broaden their interests. So I recommend dating. I think it's a great thing. And as hypnotherapists, if people want to get ready before dating or they want to do them things, I've worked with people, make sure that they're more centred and ready for that, for their next relationship after they may have had a bad or a good one, or something which just didn't work out. So until next time, I'm going to be speaking about marriage and divorce, which are quite polarising opinions, but I'm going to talk about how they work with different ways. So until next time, speak to you soon.